Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to Betting Weekly Live with Steve Wyss and our senior ATP Tour handicapper, Sean Calvert, makes his first live show appearance of 2025. Happy New Year to you, Sean.
Happy New Year, my friend. How you doing?
Well, I've been better. Bit under the weather today. It's been going around. There's a cold through the household. So, but you just got a battle on, haven't you, Sean? There's many a times you've had to do.
What's that?
You just got a battle on, haven't you?
You got a battle. Yeah, you got a battle on. Yeah. I'm doing all right. Yeah, it's I can't. To be honest with you, I can't wait for the kids to go back to school. It's what is it? 48 hours and counting. It's like a little countdown clock in the corner of my office here, waiting for Lehecka to back to school. It's his birthday this week, so I've had one party already. He's having another one tomorrow.
I heard about this.
I'm sure the live show viewers are not interested in the machinations of what I have to go through with Lehecka's birthday party, but sufficient is to say he's had one, got another one tomorrow, which is paintball outdoors in about -2. So and in between that, I've got to keep him entertained before he goes back to school. So it's that time of year, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the last party one of my daughters had was laser tag. It was actually surprisingly
fun. Did that the other day, yeah.
And I had to get involved, and there was one part of me where I was just literally tagging these young kids, and I was getting a surprising kick out of it. And then I thought, come on, Steve, you've got to be a bit more generous.
I've never done that. Lehecka did it the other day, one of his mates, but I didn't go in. He's never asked me to go in. And they come out like dripping with sweat after about 20 minutes. I don't know whether it's just insanely hot in there or what, but yeah, I don't fancy it. I must have. I'd be like you. I just get carried away and I just start shooting everything that I could possibly see and then get kicked out.
Exactly what I did. Yeah, that's exactly what I did. You just get lost in the moment a bit. But welcoming everyone, Disky, Ming Shung, good to see you. Rick Haley, Paul Lagoon, always a pleasure. Simon as well. Happy 2025 to you. Duncan Evans, Serkan Kumova, welcome into the stream. Shakespeare, and I was going to give a shout out to Rory Giovanni yesterday, who had a darts winner, a really good unders bet in the 180s market there.
Oh, Rory's doing the darts, is he? Is there no end to this man's talents?
I know. Yeah.
The nicest man in sports betting, and he knows about, boxing, weightlifting, darts, all sorts of stuff.
I mean, you put any random Olympic sport on, Rory Giovanni's your man, isn't he?
No, he's not.
Or Neil Shang. But, there's the PDC Darts World Championship final today. We're not going to preview it here, but if anyone's got the bets for that final that you're going to be getting on them, put it in the chat. Sean's here. We're going to be talking about ATP semifinals in Brisbane, Hong Kong, and then later on, there's two big games in Europe, soccer-wise. Rennes against Nice against Rennes, and Real Madrid are back in action today against Valencia. So stay tuned for that. But I mean, the big news tennis today is Novak Djokovic getting knocked out. What was he, about minus
1 to 10, I think, roughly 1 to 10.
Minus 1,000. So I asked our traders for some information, and probably the damage isn't as much as I thought, because I suppose at those sort of odds, people that weren't lumping on, but apparently the 8 largest futures for ATP Brisbane were all on Novak Djokovic. So it's been a big hit in the futures market rather than the match market, I think.
If they'd have listened to us on Betting Weekly, myself and Nigel on the Sunday, they could have avoided that pain altogether. We said Djokovic 6-4, too short. Was he 2.5 plus 150 to win the tournament? Too short, and it's come to a sticky end, that one.
There was a $350 wager pre-match on Reilly Opelka at nearly 11 to 1. So congratulations to that particular.
Good shout.
I mean, I had never heard of this guy, Reilly Opelka.
He's been injured for a couple of years. We'll talk about him again in a minute. But massive serve. If the guy's huge, he's like almost 7 foot. And which obviously helps you serve. If you remember John Isner, presumably.
Oh yeah.
He's basically like John Isner, but I'd suggest he was a bit of a better player off the ground than John Isner. But he's been out injured for a couple of years, and it's great to see him back. This week's been full of players that have been injured long term coming back. Nishikori in the semi-finals of Hong Kong. He's had no end of injury problems over the last few years. Opelka didn't play for 2 years off the tour completely because of injuries, and that's probably why I don't know him. But great, career win for him for sure.
Is this? I think Rory Giovanni was asked this question on the show with Dan yesterday. Is January a month in tennis betting which is, I know you've got the Australian Open, so people are going to want to be putting their hard cash down. But is it a month where you're a little bit more sensible with your staking, because our shock's more likely to happen this month?
I mean, I tend to go for the underdogs anyway, as you know. Statistically, the Australian tournaments, Adelaide, Brisbane, they don't produce more underdog winners than the average. They're more or less bang average. Adelaide and Brisbane, around about 33, 34% of the matches feature an underdog winner. But when the underdog winners do come, they tend to be quite big prices, like the Djokovic one, because it's the first week of the season. We don't know what these players have done over the off season. If they're carrying an injury, we don't know about it. If they're struggling for form or their personal life or whatever it is, that doesn't come out for a few weeks. The first week, anything can happen. I mean, if you look at Hong Kong, the outright situation there, we're going to have a finalist that's either 50-1 or 66-1 in Hong Kong. From the bottom half of the draw. It's particularly annoying for me because I had a 33-1 pick in that quarter. He served for the match in his first round and ended up losing it. If he'd have won that match, I feel like he probably would have had a great chance to go on and make the final. But I wouldn't say January is better for backing underdogs, because the Australian Open, again, similar profile, very, very few underdog winners. Only just over 20% of the dogs win at the Australian Open men's singles. But it is dotted with the occasional big one. It's just finding that big one that's the hard part.
So ATP Brisbane then is wide open. We've got the semi-finals there. Jiri Lehecka against Grigor Dimitrov, and of course Reilly Opelka there against Giovanni and Mpetshi Perricard. I mean, let's start with this Dimitrov game, because this is the second semi-final. There's not that many odds there, obviously, yet. But Dimitrov, the favourite now, minus 177. He's actually minus 177. So he has drifted a little bit. These graphics were only produced about an hour ago, so he has drifted in the last hour. Lehecka, is that how you pronounce him? Plus 140.
It is. You're doing better than Nigel on this. Lehecka, yeah. Sometimes I've got a natural tongue for that sort of thing, Sean. There you go.
But the spread is plus 2.5, minus 2.5. The game's line 23.5. That seems quite high. But I do know that this surface is very, very quick, isn't it? What's your analysis assessment for this first semi-final, and what are your best bets for it?
Well, I'm hoping that our outright Grigor Dimitrov can at least cash the place money here. It's going to be tough, but he started at 11-1, didn't he, to win this tournament with us, and now he's 6-4, something like that. So we're playing for the money place, aren't we?
Yeah.
Lehecka plays well in Australia. He won Adelaide last year. The head-to-head does favour him as well. It's 2-1 to Lehecka, but in terms of service points and won and return points, one tells, it's Dimitrov that leads 103-97 over the course of those three matches. And you could certainly argue that Lehecka, he kind of stole the win over Dimitrov when they met in Stockholm. That was on indoor hard. Dimitrov was actually 5-2 ahead in the final set tiebreak in that match, managed to lose the next 5 points in a row to lose the match. So although Lehecka leads it 2-1, you could certainly argue that over the course of the three, Dimitrov has had the better of the match, better of the statistics. But as far as Dimitrov's concerned, one of the main reasons I picked him out right here, first of all, it was because of the price. I said in the show on Sunday, I thought that Bet Rivers had actually got the prices the wrong way around of Rune and Dimitrov. Rune was in about 7-1, Dimitrov 12-1. I'd have had that the other way around. And for me, it was the value, because Dimitrov, he absolutely loves playing in Brisbane. This is probably his favourite tournament of the whole year for me. It's certainly his most successful. He's never defended a title in his career, Dimitrov. He's not a prolific winner of tournaments. He certainly hasn't won as many tournaments as his ability would suggest that he should. But he's won 18 of his last 20 matches at this particular tournament. And his service points won and return points won total is 106 for his career in Brisbane. So he loves playing here. The conditions suit him. If we look at what he's done this Brisbane, it's only 3 matches so far, but he's running on a service points won and return points won total of 118. And he's held serve 96% of the time. This is where the totals come from that you mentioned a minute ago. Lehecka, also brilliant stats, 111 service points won and return points won total, and 92% holds. So I just feel like Dimitrov's a little bit short on the money line. If you're not already involved in the in the Dimitrov outright, it is a dangerous match. This, you're coming in just betting on this match rather than covering an outright position or whatever. If you're coming in cold, I think Dimi is a little short. Lehecka is an extremely dangerous player in these conditions. As I said, he won Adelaide, which has been played next week. He won that last year. Loves the quick conditions in Australia. But for me, I think if you're betting in this match, I think the serving stats are, as I've just said, 96% holds Dimitrov, 92% Lehecka. That does lend itself to tiebreaks. That's why that line is a little high. But the one I quite like is plus 215 with Bet Rivers about set one tiebreak. I think that looks a fair price in these quick conditions, given how close this career series has been as well. And what's on the line here, I think this will be a tight match. I'm hoping Dimitrov gets through, but I think he's going to face a very, very stern challenge from Jiri Lehecka.
You've been in this position quite a few times down the years where you're on an outright in a semi-final.
Yeah,
we've got to. I've got to mention the word hedging here. On a serious note, is this a situation where you just said Dimitrov's probably a little bit shorter than he should be? Would you give it consideration to hedge in any form? Maybe not just yourself, but in general advice for people if they're on the outright bet.
I wouldn't put people off that because I think this is you have to take each situation as it comes. Obviously, in this specific situation, I probably won't. Maybe in play if I see a sort of situation that arises, but I wouldn't put anybody off because it is a tough match. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Dimitrov didn't win. So if there are people out there that they are a bit more circumspect in their betting, and there's nothing wrong with that. If they are, I wouldn't put anybody off hedging because I say this is going to be if he's going to win this Dimitrov, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, well, best of luck, Sean. Hopefully, Dimitrov gets through the final for you there. And this is a reminder for people. There's 36 different types of bet you can take in this match. I'm sure those markets will get even more the closer to kickoff that we go. It looks like it should be on about midnight Eastern time. I mean, these time zones just completely throw me.
Yeah, I think it's about. Yeah, it's early hours of the morning UK time, isn't it? So yes. It's something like that.
Just looking through some of the comments here, welcoming anyone who has just come in. Shane, Happy New Year to you. And he's going to be enjoying the PDC final. He's on Littler from the summer, but he thinks that the Green Machine, Michael van Gogh, has given him a right close game in the darts. Adam Thompson says Littler 7-3 to Luke Littler. That's his prediction. What are you betting on in the PDC Darts World Championship final today? Just looking through here. Simon, Happy New Year to Simon Agbons, that is. And Winston Churchill has wished you Happy New Year, Sean.
Sorry?
Winston Churchill has wished you.
I went completely. Yeah. I thought I'd fallen asleep and started dreaming there. Winston Churchill's wished me a Happy New Year. What's going on there?
Because he's bet you 2 plays from the show, 2 from 2. So he's very happy with you.
Oh, good. Excellent. Yeah. It's not often you say that Winston Churchill's happy with me. I don't think that's ever happened in my life before. That I found Winston Churchill's been impressed with me. Happy New Year, my friends, and let's hope this wager comes in.
Meninda Pirar asks: set one games over 10.5. Is that worth a play at plus 150?
Yes. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've just given you the stats that they've held 96 and 92% of the time so far. It's quick conditions that they're very well matched. Slight edge to Dimitrov, which is good for us. But yeah, over 10.5, the more circumspect approach. Over 12.5, the slightly more expansive approach. You pay your money, you take your choice. I think it'll be tight. Yeah.
Okay, so we haven't actually got. I mean, I think the odds have actually been taken down now for the second semi, but that's what it was earlier. Reilly Opelka against Giovanni and Mpetshi Perricard, and it really looks a bit of a pick'em to me. This could easily kick off at minus 110 each, minus 117 each, perhaps.
Well, it's a serving contest. It's as simple as that. I mean, I can go into the stats. There's loads of them. If you don't know these two players, both massive servers, probably the 2 biggest servers in the game. I imagine the total games line will almost certainly be 25.5, which it was in Mpetshi Perricard against Kyrgios earlier on this week, and that ended up 7-6, 6-7, 7-6. So they're 2 of the biggest servers in the game. And Mpetshi is the second ranked in the ATP service overall ratings, just half a point behind Alexander Zverev. So he's, according to the ATP, he's the second best server in the game. So far, this Brisbane and Mpetši's held serve 100% of the time. He's faced 4 break points only in 7 sets. And, when he's serving like this, when he's in a rhythm like this, he's really hard to stop. And it's more so in quick conditions. He has won a title on clay as well. So his serve is tough to deal with, in any conditions. He's only played 1 top 10 opponent so far in his career in Mpetshi Perricard, which was Alcaraz in Beijing last year, where it isn't particularly quick, and Alcaraz won 6-4, 6-4. But that match aside, I'm interested to see how the really best returners get on against him, because his serve is virtually unplayable. I mean, we've just seen, the arguably probably the best returner in the game of all time, Novak Djokovic, unable to do anything against Reilly Opelka. If these big guys hit their spots, it's almost certainly going to be a tiebreak. As I've said about Opelka, he was off the tour for 2 years due to injury. Came back towards the end of last season, struggled a little bit, as you could probably expect. But now he's looking at a major threat again. He's a former Masters 1000 finalist, Opelka. So he's not just a huge serve. His ground game is decent as well. He only faced 1 break point against probably the best returner of all time last night in Novak Djokovic, and he won 86% of his second serve points against Djokovic as well. And he's held serve 97% of the time so far in Brisbane. So it's probably the most obvious tiebreak match there's ever been in the history of tennis, I think, this. In terms of return points won, the both of them have got pretty awful return games, and Mpetshi in particular, he's only won 28% of return points so far in Brisbane, and that's about par for the course for him. His return game is nothing, really. Opelka's is a tiny bit better on 30%. But I'm interested to see what the tie-break lines are. I think they're going to be massively odds on, because these two, it's just going to be a serving contest. That's it.
I mean, Nigel's mentioned there about the games line. It could be potentially as high as 26.5. But I mean, would you go over the games line if it was, say, 24.5, 25.5? It sounds like there may not be a break of serving the whole match.
It'll probably be the same as the Kyrgios match, which ended up 6-7, 7-6, 6-7. It's that sort of match. It just depends. If one of these guys puts in a bad service game, a couple of double faults, maybe an unforced error, then you've done your money. That's what puts me off those sort of bets when they're really odds on. It's difficult to say without seeing the prices, but I think there's not a lot you can do here. It's going to be tie breaks unless somebody puts in a bit of a shocker of a service game, and then you might get a 6-3, 6-4. Might be worth taking a punt on that, because this is going to be so short about tie breaks. It's probably the shortest price tie break match, as I said, there's probably ever been.
Does that mean in terms of picking the winner for the game, it's quite difficult, or
Very
is
difficult.
one of these players better at tie breaks than others?
No, I mean, for me, it's just who serves better at the right times. Who can produce the goods, on the set point or on the break point. They have a swing and it goes in. I don't think there's much science in this. It's a match between 2 massive servers, and one of them's going to make a mistake at some point. I suppose if you're pressing me on the money line, I'd perhaps go for the guy that was a slightly bigger price. But honestly, it's very hard to pick a winner based on the game style of these two in these conditions.
It sounds like proper old-fashioned tennis. If you get the ball over the net with your serve, you're going to win the point.
It is. With these two in these conditions, it's like it's like the old Wimbledon of like 1980, whatever. I mean, there's not the same. It's not as much serve volley involved, but these two, because they've got such great serves. Because they've got such great serves, and they're both poor at returning. It's almost certainly going to be tie breaks. I mean, I don't know whether there'll be a market, but sometimes there's a market on final set tie break played. I mean, it's normally about 10-1 with most players. It'd probably be about 2-1 with these two. Difficult one without seeing the prices, but that's the sum of it.
Yeah, you've heard the analysis there from Sean Calvert about the second semi-final. It's going to be one between 2 big servers. Let's go over to Hong Kong, where, I mean, Sean mentioned there's been a few surprises here, but we've got 2 semi-finals. We can only really, in terms of betting, talk about one of them specifically, and it is the one between Alexandre Muller and Jaume Munar. I don't know if I've pronounced that one right.
I think it's Jaume Munar. I think it's Jaume. I don't know.
This is a real pick'em. Proper pick'em, this, isn't it? Minus 103 for him, for Muller, sorry, and minus 122 for Munar. games line 22.5. The spread, obviously, really tight here, 1.5. Is there a certain player you like here?
I think it's priced up about right. I can't really see the graphic, but Munar's slightly odds on, isn't he?
Munar minus 122. And minus 103 for Muller. Yeah,
that's pretty much how I would have it. Really, I can't really argue with those odds. I mean, I'm slightly peeved, as you can imagine, because I had, as I said, a big price runner 33-1 in this half of the draw, and if he'd have beaten Borges, this is Juncheng boo. If he'd have beaten Borges having served for the match, he'd probably be in this position now, and I'd be talking about him against whoever it was, Muller or Munar, whichever one it was, and I'd be looking at the two semi-finalists. But I'm leaning towards Munar because anyone that's seen Jaume Munar play, I'm assuming you probably haven't, Steve. He's not one of the most famous.
No, I can't say I've ever. I mean, I think I've heard of the name, but I've never seen him play.
He generally plies his trade mainly on the clay. I mean, every Munar match is a physical battle, which you've got to win if you're the opponent. And what puts me off Muller slightly here is a couple of things. Firstly, he had a medical timeout against Artur Fils in the match that he played yesterday. I think it was a left hip problem. And he might not be fully fit. And you have got to be fully fit to play Munar because he will make you play a ton of balls. It grinds you down. He's a real pest. If you're going to beat him, you've got to play him off the court, which is not that easy. Munar's generally at his best on the clay, but when he does decide to play a more attacking, a more expansive game on hard courts, he can be a handful because he's got a decent serve. His forehand's decent. He has got the tools to be an all right player on hard courts. He's never going to be a world beater, but he can be good. I mean, look who he's beaten so far this week: Davidovich, Fokina, Borges, Musetti. You wouldn't really fancy him to win any of those matches really on a hard court. And he's got a 3-1 head-to-head career series lead over Alexandre Muller as well, all of which were played on clay at challenger level. If you look at the head-to-head over the course of those matches, Munar leads the service points won and return points won totals 104-96, with Munar holding serve 81% of the time on clay, which is very good, and Muller only 69%. The only caveat in that is that Munar's taken 60% of his breakpoint chances in those matches, and Muller's only taken 26%. So Munar's been the better player on the big points. I'm just not sure that Muller has the power to hit through Munar. And with his left hip issue as well, I think this is priced about right. I think if you're having a bet on this match, I think Munar is probably priced up just about okay to bet.
What are the games line here? Is it one of those that could go over? I mean, do you see 3 sets in this game?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, again, a lot will depend on Muller's fitness. Given that the Australian Open is only a couple of weeks away, he might not want to, if he is feeling that hip, he might not want to put too much in. You might see a retirement or a slightly laboured effort. But again, we're guessing. He has got the injury. We don't know what it is. I think with these two, I think Munar's got the edge, but it is priced that way, so I wouldn't call it value as such.
Second semi-final, we've got Juncheng Shang against Kai Nishikori. I thought Nishikori had retired, but still going on strong in the semi-final here. No odds for this game, but if you had a lean for a player or any market that potentially you might be able to attack when the odds come out, just let us know, Sean. What do you think?
I'm just having a quick look because these two know each other really, really well. They trained together in Bradenton down in Florida. So they know each other about as well as it's possible to be. I'm just having a quick look on the stats here because they've played each other a few times, I think. Just bear with me a second.
Nishikori, is it a surprise to see him in the semi-final overall or not?
On talent, no. On fitness, little bit, yeah, because he has struggled quite a bit. If you just bear with me a second, I'm trying to get these stats
up.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to move across here. I'm gonna have to do this kind of on the hoof, so to speak. I mean, he's had so many injury problems, Kei Nishikori over the years. His body, unfortunately, hasn't been able to do what we all would have liked to see him do because he's a super player to watch. They played each other a couple of times. Shang beat him 2-0, beat Nishikori 2-0 in Chengdu quarterfinals. Last 16 towards the back end of last year. Nishikori beat Shang in 2023 in Atlanta. Shang's the one certainly with with the better current form. What would worry me perhaps a bit about Nishikori is what always worries me about Nishikori, and that's his stamina. He's just played Cam Norrie, and when you play Cam Norrie, every point is a war. It's not an easy. He's a bit like Munar, really, in that sense. You've got to play a lot of long rallies. I noticed that Nishikori was wearing a strapping on his upper thigh, so fitness would certainly worry me. I suspect Shang will win this, but I haven't seen the odds, so it's very difficult.
We expect quite a close betting heat here, probably similar to the other semi-final. Maybe someone at -122, someone at -103. We think
if it's that close, I'd probably back Shang because he should be the fresher, the fresher guy. I'm always worried about Nishikori when he's played a couple of long matches, particularly now, that he's getting on a bit. And he hasn't played so many of these matches in the last couple of years because of all the injuries. So Shang was 1.6 when he played Nishikori in Chengdu. So if he's bigger than that, if you're suggesting he's going to be about 1.8, something like that, I might be tempted with Shang.
There we go. Shang could be the play. Just looking back through the comments, Shane, my Kit Kat, I've fallen out with him a little bit. He's a bit angry with me. I didn't give him a treat earlier. So he's not too impressed. My cat, yeah, he often appears on screen. Yeah, I've got my other cat might make an appearance actually. I
wasn't aware that this was a thing, to be honest with you.
Yes, we've got Dan's dog sometimes comes in screen.
Is this what happens? Okay, I'm missing out.
One of my cats. I know. Yeah, Florence Nightingale. Do you play tennis, Sean? And are you keeping fit?
I play a lot of paddle now. Anyone that sort of watches the show that I do with Nigel will probably hear me talk about it quite a bit. I play quite a lot of paddle tennis. It's a bit easy. It's a bit less running because it's doubles, so there's not much running. I'm getting on a bit now. So tennis for me is too difficult on the body. It takes too much out of me. So I play a lot of paddle. I try and play 2 or 3 times a week playing paddle. So I really enjoy it. I think it's more enjoyable than tennis, really, paddle. Sorry to all the tennis lovers. Yeah, it's great fun. It's great fun. It's a depressurized ball, so the ball isn't a bounce. So you can give it a right clack, and it's more of a social game as well. It's great fun. So I play 3 times a week. Was it the question? Am I keeping fit?
Yes.
I suppose that's keeping me fit. Yeah, I do all right. Yeah. Don't ask me to run a 10K though. That could be a problem. But generally, I'm all right. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Can Sean give us a tennis majors futures parlay off the cuff? We'll give him a little bit. We'll give him a chance to think about this because I'm going to talk about some soccer games today. Now we've got 2 big games across Europe: Nice versus Rennes in the French League, and Valencia against Real Madrid. Now, for those who do subscribe to the newsletter, and I'll put the link in the chat, I did give out a pick about a week in advance on the Valencia game. And the pick that I did advise was under 2.5 goals. And this is one of those situations where I'm not as confident when I bet on it about a week ago than I am heading into the match because the injury situation for Valencia isn't favourable. The Georgian goalkeeper, Mamardashvili, who is moving to Liverpool in the summer, is ruled out of the game. And I knew he was injured, but I thought he was actually going to be coming back for this game. That's a huge blow for Valencia. And unsurprisingly now, I advised it at +115, and the under 2.5 goal line now has moved out to +128. I'm still hopeful. As I'm going to mention now, there's a manager change at Valencia. Carlos Corberan has come in to take over incredible club Valencia are.
Don't be telling me this.
A bit of a mess. Yeah, Sean Calvert, of course, was he managed Sean's team West Brom, and one of the reasons I still kind of like the under is because I think Corberan in his first match is just going to try and frustrate Real Madrid, park men behind the ball, and just make it themselves as hard as they possibly can to beat. 99% of the money's on Real Madrid, 98% of the tickets. We've got some large wages on Real Madrid. $5,000 here on Real Madrid draw no bet -435. Over 2.25 on the Asian total is the most wagered player of the game. So, obviously those haven't been reading the newsletter or maybe realised that Mamardashvili is now ruled out. I still hope. I think Real Madrid win the game. I think Real Madrid win to 0 could be an option here, actually.
I hope they win about 8-0.
I mean, Carlos Corberán, what can Valencia fans expect of Carlos Corberán, do you think, Sean, based on his time at West Brom? It was a bit boring every time that you mentioned him.
Yeah, it's a very specific style of play. It's just possession based, and there's an awful lot of sideways and backwards passing goes on. The keeper to the defender will just literally stand on the ball for about 10 seconds, pass it back to the keeper, then he'll pass it to the fullback, back to the keeper, back to the other fullback, back to the centre back, back to the keeper again. Occasionally in midfield, don't like the look of that, but I passed it back. It's very dull. I mean, it worked. Don't get me wrong. Corberán was great for West Brom. He did us a massive favour. He'll always be very popular down there for what he did to the team when he came in and how he left us. But it can be very dry. I mean, I would imagine he'll do better at Valencia with that start because they've got better players. There's always an accident waiting to happen when you play that way in the Championship, which is one of the reasons the Championship's quite exciting league to watch, is because of the mistakes more than anything else. But I think he'll do a great job at Valencia. He's very thorough, very, very thorough coach. He lives and breathes it. He leaves no stone unturned. I think he'll do well. As I say, it probably suit their game style and Spanish football in general better than the hurly-burly, the Championship.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with Valencia is off the field. They can be a bit of a basket case, but I do think they've hired quite well here. And this match, of course, is a rearranged fixture which was postponed because of the floods in Valencia a few months ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
So don't think it's a bad thing for him. He can get a game, and probably everyone's expecting Real Madrid to win the match, so he's not going to be judged on this first game, but he can see what these players are made of. Knowing Corberán, I think he will certainly have a game plan. I think he'll try and restrict Real Madrid. Whether or not he can is a different matter. There is a house special from Bet Rivers, raised odds here for Kylian Mbappe to score a goal in the first 25 minutes at plus 250. This is becoming quite a popular side market now, Sean, in soccer. Players to basically score in the first half an hour or whatever, first 20 minutes. But if you do like Mbappe to come out hot, plus 250, a goal in the first 25 minutes. Simon says, I feel Valencia are a bit underestimated tonight. They always seem to raise their game at home to Real, and now with a new manager bounce as well. Not a walk in the park. He's suggesting a 3-2 win for Real Madrid. Real Madrid did have that crazy draw 3-3 against Real Vallecano just before the winter break. Be careful of these sides that have had winter breaks, by the way. We don't know what they've been doing necessarily. Sometimes they can come out really hot. Sometimes they can come out slow, lacking rhythm. From my perspective, with the under that I'm already on, I'm hoping Real Madrid are just sleepwalking here to a 1-0 win. But let's wait and see. De-Icer Dave hit his first darts bet that he's ever made yesterday. Rory Giovanni, really popular bet that, wasn't it? That he tipped it with the unders in the 180s. So fair play to Rory Giovanni. I am advising a bet in the Nice against Rennes game, and I'm going against the grain here. I do like the visitors on the Tino bet at plus 140. Their away record is bad. I think they've lost something like 6 of their last 7 away games, but the Nice injury situation is not very good. They are missing a lot of players. The squad has been stretched thin for most of the season, actually. They're just one of them teams that always seem to get injuries. Rennes are another team under new management. Sampaoli, the former Marseille boss, is in charge. He has been in charge, actually, for the last 3 or 4 games. I've seen a lot of improvement. Rennes, on paper, should be a top 5 team in Ligue 1, and I believe that they can end their bad away run here this evening. Plus 140. This is a 3 p.m. kickoff time Eastern on the Tino bet for Stade Rennais. They've got a decent side, and they are not missing many players themselves. So that would be my best bet of the day. It comes in front. It comes in Liga. Rennes on the Tino bet at plus 140. Let us know in the comments if you're going to bet on that game as well. And of course, we've got the PDC Darts World Championship final as well. There's going to be a lot of money on that. Just going back to some stats for the Rennes game. 98% of the money is on Nice for this fixture, with 92% of the money on the over. That is an instance where I do think perhaps I'm surprised by the amount of public money on Nice, considering their injury situation. But parlay then, Sean, for the tennis majors. What do you reckon?
Oh yeah, I forgot you asked me that. I do it completely off the top of my head now.
We're well, obviously, months in advance here for some of these. 4? But Yeah, off the cuff. Go on, let's just have a bit of fun here.
Well,
if it comes in, we can clip it up and you'll look like the biggest god ever. But
I'm not sure I will, because in the men's game, it's basically Sinner and Alcaraz now. The two that are so far ahead of everybody else, with Djokovic still sort of lurking in the background.
Are they splitting majors then, do you think? Could they split the Grand Slams?
Quite possibly. I would fancy Sinner to win Australia, assuming, he's got this sort of drugs thing overhanging him a little bit. That's an ongoing thing. But it didn't seem to bother him in the US Open, did it? He's the most likely, I would say, to win the Australian. French, I'd probably side with Alcaraz there on the clay. Again, the Wimbledon it's probably a toss-up between those two. Alcaraz won it last couple of years, hasn't he? So he's a decent shout there. But by the time you get to the US, you kind of need to know what's gone on for the rest of the season, because there's bound to be injuries involved. I'd have to come back to you on the US, because it's 9 months away.
That's a tough one. It's way in advance there.
It's so far down the line. I wouldn't be even thinking about that now, because imagine if you get the first two winners and then you get to the US and your guy's not even playing, which is quite possible given the injuries that Sinner often gets, and Alcaraz has had his fair share of injuries as well. So I'm not. It does look between them two at the minute. There are obviously some lively outsiders knocking about, but those two have got it between them at the minute. They're a level above the rest just at the moment.
Yeah, I know it's very popular for people to sort of have a Grand Slam parlay. Same with the golf as well. Throughout the year for a bit of fun. Just looking through the comments here. Worth a poke on the 9 data, says Duncan Evans. I've just looked. It's plus 500 with Bet Rivers. Luke Littler plus 700 for a 9 dart finish. Van Gerwen 14-1 for the 9 data. So he's actually double the odds of Luke Littler for the 9.
Has he never done one, or has he very rarely done one, Van Gerwen or something?
I don't think he's had one in the World Championship since 2012, but only Phil Taylor in his career has hit more live televised 9 darters, I do believe, than Van Gerwen. So, 14-1. That's a little bit. If Van Gerwen was looking at those odds, I think he'd be like, I'm having some of that.
If he's in confident mood, I'm sure he would. Yeah, 14-1. I don't know much about darts, but I do enjoy watching the darts. I used to watch
the walk-ons
back in the day.
Some great ones, isn't they now?
Some of the nicknames are a bit peculiar, I have to say. But I used to love the darts. Eric Bristow and all that. That was my shows how old I am. I used to love Brissy, the old crafty Cockney back in the day. Obviously Phil Taylor. It's basically the only show in town, isn't it? At this time of the year, there's nothing much else on. Winter breaks and tennis isn't on and stuff. But yeah, the darts is always good fun, isn't it? Look, I've never been to Ali Pali actually. Maybe we could do that Christmas party next year or something.
I've always wanted to go to Ali Pali actually to watch the Masters snooker or the Mosconi Cup pool. Actually, that always looks the atmosphere looks incredible for the Mosconi Cup.
I did the Masters when he was at Wembley. I think it was about 2003-ish, 20 odd years ago, basically. Masters at Wembley used to be properly raucous.
Yeah, the atmosphere
when Jimmy
was
White
proper.
was playing.
Yeah,
going back further, 15 years before then. When I went 20 years ago, it calmed down a bit. It was a bit more sedate, but it used to be a real cauldron in there, didn't it? When Jimmy was playing and Kirk Stevens and all these guys back. It shows how old I am. I'm going to stop talking now because I'm just showing myself up for being like ancient.
You're right. There's some incredible nicknames down the years with darts. I always remember a bloke called Roland Sholton, and he was nicknamed the Tripod.
The Tripod, yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know why. I have no idea why.
We probably shouldn't speculate as to why.
There was the Pie Man. There was all sorts. Anyway, we're droning on here. Just before we go, someone's mentioning here United Cup. What is the United Cup, Sean? Is this a tennis tournament that's going on around the globe at the minute?
It's kind of like a mini Davis Cup, but with men and women playing. So it's got men and women playing a combined team event. It's in Australia, obviously at the start of the season. It's played in multiple different venues. I think they play it in Perth and Sydney and whatnot. But it's a combined team event. That's basically.
Do you follow it? Is it just not your sort of thing? More exhibition, is it?
It's probably better standard than exhibition. I'm not sure whether you get ATP points for it. You might do now because I think they were trying to boost its popularity a bit. I think it's quite a decent tournament. It's it's not something that I would watch as such. I would certainly keep my eye on the results. and injuries or whatever. It's certain things for certain players. If an injury's been reported, or if a certain result might catch my eye, I think that's interesting, because it's always interesting to see how players go in the first week, because if they have a good first week, it could they could carry on for the next couple of weeks. But it's a combined team event that's played in several different venues in Australia.
Well, thank you very much, Sean. It was a pleasure, as always. A lot of fun doing the show with you today. And I know it's a massive period for you coming up, Australian Open.
Yep.
I don't know if you're down. You might be down for some more live shows in January. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think I'm doing one on the 17th or something.
I think we've got a show where it's going to be Dan, you, and RJ in one go. So that's going to be fun. Do follow the Instagram account. I've just put a link there. There's going to be some more exclusive content this year on the Instagram account. The weekly parlay from the Soccer Boys, probably some tennis tips and advice from you, Sean, you and Nigel, and possibly Rory as well. So do give that account a follow. And best of luck, whatever you're taking this weekend. Betting Weekly extra time show is out with me, James, and Dan. The Premier League show came out yesterday as well. That's been going great guns recently. Thanks so much for your support and all the comments as well. Absolutely through the roof at the minute. Really appreciate you guys out there. If you are new and just watching for the first time, any like or subscription would be really appreciated, guys. But yeah, that's it for Betting Weekly Live this week, heading into the new year. Back on Monday. And Sean, great to see you. Thanks as always. And
pleasure.
Really hope that Dimitrov, let's hope he cashes for you.
Let's hope so.
Full time on the outright there. But take care, everyone. Remember to gamble responsibly. Have a great weekend. And I'll see you next week on Betting Weekly Live.